Let's jump into some headlines here because I saw a note on the social media feeds, especially from Emilee Fannon at CBS 58 in Milwaukee, and it just gives you pause of what we're still having to deal with 3.5 years after the 2020 election. Specifically, I'm talking about a state senator from the Racine-Kenosha area named Van Wanggaard, who initially, when speaking to Emilee Fannon on camera yesterday, was there to take a shot at some fellow right-wingers who had been targeting Assembly Speaker Robin Vos for a recall. The recall is going to fail. The recall organizers are unhappy with Vos because he refused to go along with fellow right-wingers who want to continue to lie about what is obvious to everyone, that Trump lost in 2020. So Emilee Fannon is asking him about it, asking him about the Vos recall, the failed recall attempt, and he goes on to take a shot at them. But then he goes on this remarkable tangent where it's clear, though he works so hard not to say it explicitly, that he too is still buying into the big lie. Either he really believes there's some kind of secret evidence, or he doesn't believe it, but he doesn't have the courage to stand up to fellow conservatives and tell them to knock it off. Takes about 90 seconds. Give a listen to Van Wanggaard and Emilee Fannon.
We're now going into 2024 here, so we need to be looking ahead. They're talking about starting again and doing another recall on him. Get over it. This is just ridiculous.
Right. And, you just mentioned, too, there's still a lot of talk about 2020, and there's a lot of Republicans who want to move on from that. What do you think, though, when you hear the former President Donald Trump continue to spew falsehoods about the 2020 election when many are trying to move on?
Is it false?
That he won Wisconsin?
Do you have inside
is
information
false.
that I don't have? Because I think that there's a potential that Trump could have won here, but we don't actually know, because there was some shenanigans that was pulled.
Despite a review, despite an audit, despite a review by Will, you believe the election was stolen from Trump?
Oh, I didn't say it was stolen.
Okay.
I said, but what I'm saying is that Trump could have won. I don't think all of the documentation that was brought forward is necessarily all the documentation. I think you need to look at all of the factors and do a total investigation. You can't just look at pick and choose and cherry pick what you want. I'm for moving on. 2020 is behind us.
Just want to get clarity, though. You think he won in 2020?
I said, I think he has the ability to make the determination in his mind and in his heart. Did I win that or not? So we're going to be the thought police now.
Okay. So again, Emilee Fannon says, what do you think when Trump spreads falsehoods about 2020? And he interrupts her to say, is it false? Do you have inside information that I don't have? No. Do you, Senator Wanggaard? He says there's a potential Trump could have won here, meaning he might have won here if only these shenanigans didn't exist. Which to me means he means the votes of Wisconsin Democratic voters in larger cities, that not enough of them were thrown out. Because that's the only way the math works, is if they were to be successful in getting rid of Democratic votes by raising suspicions around the Democratic vote counting and ballot filling out procedures. And yet, despite court reviews, despite audits, despite the right-wing legal group Will looking at things and saying there's no there, he's saying all the documentation that's been brought forward is not all of the documentation. What? Again, what do you have that still hasn't been brought up in 3.5 years? He says, you got to look at all the factors. Don't cherry pick, but at the same time, I want to move on. But we need an exhaustive investigation. Hello, Michael Gableman, but we got to move on. And then he closes by saying that given all of that he just said, given all that he just said, it's okay if Donald Trump wants to believe that he won. If my state senator said anything like that up here, I'd say to his face, you should resign. I mean, look, to look at you on TV, you've got enough on your lapel. You got enough lapel pins and flag pins that you look like you're cosplaying a military officer, but that doesn't make you any more American than anybody else. But I'll tell you what makes you less American is knowingly undermining public confidence in elections because your guy lost and you don't have the moral fiber to stand up for democracy, acknowledge you lost, not claim some kind of funny business, and move on. Talking like this about 2020 has moved into the category of claiming the moon landings were fake. You can bring it up, but people are going to look at you funny. It might be best to keep that to yourself, unless finally you've got some kind of secret other than you can't just yell, Dane County, Milwaukee County, ballot harvesting, or Eric Hovde, spewing nonsense about nursing home residents going to be dead soon.